So good morning, everybody, and welcome to the BusinessWorks webinar Copilot series. This is the second of our six-part series that we're running throughout the rest of the year. Today's focus will be on how you can better use Copilot to get better results by using much better prompting. Like the other sessions, this session will run for about 30 minutes, so it's pretty short and sharp. But at the end of it, we will talk a little bit about some training packages that we've got available to yourself, and if you want to take the Copilot experience a little bit deeper, plus how you can order some licensing. So with that, it gives me great pleasure again to introduce Jess Cornwell from IntelliTraining. Jess is running obviously today's session and throughout the sessions throughout the series. So thanks very much, Jess, and welcome again, and thanks very much for joining us. And I'll hand over to you to start the session. So thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Hello, everyone. It's lovely to meet you all. As Stephen said, I'm Jess Cornwell. Thank you for giving me some of your time today. If anything pops up during the session, feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A and we will address them at the end of the session if we have time. If we don't have time, we'll come back to you with answers via email as well. You'll see the react button at the top of the webinar. Feel free to send in some thumbs up or love hearts if you're enjoying the session. It gives us a good idea that you're enjoying the content. You can also use closed captions or interpreter. If that helps you, you just use the More button at the top of the webinar toolbar, and then you can go ahead and select language and speech and choose show live captions or interpreter to follow along in your preferred way. So like Stephen said, today we're talking about prompting. With any AI tool, the quality of your prompts directly shapes the quality of the results that you get. So taking a moment to craft clear prompts really does make a difference. And this is what I see time and time again in training. Putting a little bit of effort into that prompt is really going to change the result that you get. You can talk to Copilot naturally. You can ask it things. It will always strive to give you the best response it can. So you could simply just start with a task that you want Copilot to do. You can keep the wording simple and direct. And remember, we can always come back and refine it later. So if you don't get the right response, you can ask Copilot to change it. You can even ask Copilot why it did that response and kind of fine tune it from there. Some common requests that you might use could be summarize, rewrite, explain, draft, create, even catch me up. If you do want the best response, you can use some prompting basics. This starts with a goal. So what outcome do you want? Then you could put in the context, why you need it, where Copilot should source the supporting information from, and then the expectations of the response. So that might be your tone, your style, what is the length of the response? Do you want it detailed? Do you want it summarized, and so forth? You don't need to go and put in every single one of these elements with every prompt either. Instead, get comfortable with this formula and then apply the techniques that are most relevant to what you're trying to do. Then, depending on the prompt, if you think it will benefit the response, you can also add your role. This is that's kind of like, well, maybe an example would be, I am a business owner, but on occasion I put my marketing hat on. So you might go in there and say, in this particular prompt, I'm using the role of the marketing team. The great news is, though, is that Copilot lets you personalize it, so your answers can reflect your preferences that you have saved, like your role. So if you're constantly doing the same thing, you can actually save that into Copilot. You can save things like use Australian English or don't use bold text. If you're interested to find out a bit more about that, you can watch our previous webinar. We touch on that in that webinar as well. So here's an example of a great prompt using our goal, context, source, expectation formula. So first we have the goal, write a friendly internal announcement about our upcoming Copilot for Microsoft 365 training. The context, explain that it supports our organization-wide rollout and will help everyone use Copilot effectively and safely. And then we have our source. So what are we going to use to create this prompt? We're going to use the attached course overview and course discussion meeting as your source. And then finally, we've got the expectation where we want to keep it clear, executive in tone, and around 120 to 150 words. Focus is on encouraging staff to attend. So can you see how using this formula that we've just talked about will get us a much better result than, say, if we had just put that goal in? So this is where prompting is super important, where you can kind of really change the way that Copilot responds. So we've covered the basics of good prompting. And now if you're wondering how to remember it all, it's okay because Copilot does have you covered there. Microsoft includes a prompt lab that you can open directly in Copilot. Firstly, it's important to understand that Copilot does have prompts that it suggests underneath the prompting field. You can see an arrow pointing to those now. If you select them, they do display further options, and you can actually select those and they'll put it straight into the prompt box. This is a really great tool for when you're starting to learn Copilot and you're not really sure of the different things that Copilot can do or how to ask Copilot to do those things as well. If we select the three dots, we can also access the full list of prompts. And this opens the prompt gallery where you can see your saved prompts up the top, and you can also filter down by prompt topics down on the left-hand side. I'll show you how to access this in a little bit as well. So some tips for clear prompting. We want to be clear on the task, say exactly what you want Copilot to do. Use those prompting basics of goal, context, source, expectation. We can just use plain language, so keep your wording simple and direct. You don't need to be technical or anything like that. And then I think this is quite an important one, is to break it down. So just only ask one request at a time. You'll get a much clearer result. Think of it kind of like a junior. You wouldn't go and tell a junior to do multiple tasks. You kind of give it one task, give the junior one task, go ahead and let them do that correctly. They come back and then we give it the next task. So that's what we can do with our Copilot as well. We can give it examples, so include sample text. If you're creating an image, maybe you'll give it an image that you like the design of, things like that. And then remember, we can always go ahead and refine the results. So you can just adjust it as you need, or you can ask again if Copilot hasn't given you what you wanted as well. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in and take a look. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the Copilot app. Everything we're doing today is in the Copilot app. If you don't know about the Copilot app, again, in our last webinar, we went through this in quite a good detail there, so you can always go back and watch it. I'm just going to open it. It's actually pinned to my taskbar down the bottom here, and I'm just going to click on it to open it. I do have it in full screen. It typically opens in a more minimized version. What I wanted to show you is on the left-hand side, this new chat section here. This is how we kind of wipe the slate clean with Copilot. So if we're changing our topic or the context of what we're talking to Copilot about, this is where we would go new chat, and it basically starts a brand new chat for us. So if you're switching from say one task to another and it's a completely different context, we'd want to start a new chat for that. Then in here, this is our message Copilot section. This is actually our prompt field in here where we type in our prompts. And then on the right-hand side is this little microphone where we can actually click on that and do speech to text to Copilot. So if you've got a lengthy prompt, or maybe you don't really know what you want to say to Copilot, I like to ramble on a little bit. I click on this, I say what I'm thinking, and then Copilot then dictates it for me. And then I can go and send it in. And Copilot's pretty good at understanding what I say now. On the left-hand side, this little plus sign is super important. This is how we reference any sources that we want to use. We can be quite broad in here and tell Copilot in the prompt what we want it to reference. But if you want something very specific, so say you're summarizing multiple files, you want to attach those files so Copilot knows what it's summarizing. So the way we do that is we click on this plus sign here, and we can go into this section that says add content. So adding content is essentially the same as using a shortcut of a / in the message Copilot box. And this will go and reference our OneDrive files, so our personal OneDrive files, and also any recent files that we may have accessed on SharePoint. So it's a really good thing if you've just been working on something to use the add content, or like I said, just the shortcut of that / in here, and then you can type in a word and it will go and search it for you. I'll just remove that now. Another thing as well is in the plus sign, if we go to upload, we have the option to upload images and files from our C drive on our computer or stored on our computer. So that's where we would use that. And then this one, this is if you're going to reference a file on OneDrive or SharePoint or a folder or even a site on SharePoint. This is where you would use attached cloud files. So a lot of the time, if you can't find it in the add content because it's not in your personal OneDrive or you haven't recently viewed it, you're going to want to come into upload and you want to go into attached cloud files here. Okay, so that's basically how we go and add a source in. Underneath the message Copilot, we talked about the fact that there's these suggestions or suggested prompts. If you click on them, like I said, it opens up and gives you a whole bunch of prompts that you can select from, which would automatically put it into the message Copilot box. And then this little 3 dots at the end here, this is where we can go to more prompts. Sometimes this won't appear if you've already put some text into this box. So if that's the case, just go and hit new chat again, and then you'll see this little button here appear. When you click on it, it opens up your prompt lab. And on the left-hand side, you've got your saved prompts. We've got some prompt topics over here as well, some agent prompts as well, which is Copilot creates agents with set recurring context and topics in it. And you can just basically go and select them if you wanted to action those prompts. We'll just close out of the prompt lab by clicking on the X here. Okay, so remember we went through the explanation of goal, context, source, and expectation. So we're going to do some prompting now. You're going to get a copy of these prompts as well in the coming days. And we're going to put some prompts in. I want to show you an example of how we can use those that different formulas. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in a task. So this is just asking Copilot to do something. You can see this is pretty generic. It just says, I want to be prepared for my next meeting today. Now, this is a fine prompt. It will still look at your next meeting today. It will still come back with an answer. I'm going to hit enter and it's going to start to think. The thing is we haven't actually given Copilot any information about how we want it to present the information about the next meeting. We've been very broad here in our request. So we're going to let Copilot have a think. It's going to come back and tell us what it's got in my calendar next. It may take a little while because we're using what's called Work IQ in the top left-hand corner here. Copilot's going and it knows that it needs to check my calendar because it's quite specific. We've got a meeting today and it's gone and had a look in my calendar and you can see it's come here and said, I found 2 meetings matching today and here they are. So you can see that we've got an example of this meeting and it's giving us a little bit of a breakdown of what that meeting's about. Here's the meeting itself. And most importantly, it's actually got the sources that it's referenced to give me this answer. Now with AI, we do want to make sure that we check the responses that we get back, including within Copilot. And this is a way that we can see the sources that it's used to give us this answer. Also on each individual response, you can see there's a little icon that sits with it, and that's the source there that it's used to come back with this answer as well. So it's a good way to check what you've got as a response. Now, this is a great response. I'm really quite happy with it, but I kind of want to be a bit more detailed. I want to see it in a different way. So this is where I'm going to use that goal, context, source, expectation. I've done it for you guys just in a way of outlining what each of these are. You don't need to put goal in front of it. You can just say, I want to be prepared for my next meeting today. I need to understand the purpose of the meeting. But for you guys, I've put it in here so it makes a bit more sense with the formula. You can absolutely do it the same way. It doesn't matter regardless if you have it there or not. And it might be helpful for you while you're learning prompting to have this kind of like a guideline. I'm going to send it in and then I'm going to explain how I changed that prompt. So the goal, I want to be prepared for my next meeting today. So we already did that in our last prompt. But now I've got the context. I need to understand the purpose of the meeting, recent discussions, and anything I need to contribute. So that's a key thing there. The source, use the meeting invitations, relevant emails, chats, and files. The expectation, provide a short meeting brief with meeting purpose, key background, topics likely to be discussed, questions I should ask, and actions I may need to take. So here's my redo of my prompt. So you can see now I've got the meeting brief, when it is, what location it is, the meeting purpose, the key background, the topics likely to be discussed, the questions to ask, and the actions I may need to take. And then below that, here's the meeting. Again, what it's used as a source, And then I do have some more suggested prompts from Copilot that I could use as well. So this is a far more detailed response, and it's actually broken down exactly how I wanted it to. Guess what? I can now refine it even more. So this is quite a lengthy one. I could say, make this more concise. This is a common one that I use with Copilot because I often find that the summary in Copilot is quite long and I like things to be a bit more concise. Don't worry if you can't spell like me, or type, I should say, because Copilot is fine with that. It can work out what you wanted it to do. You can even just say more concise as well. Copilot will get to learn how you write as well as time goes on. So here you can see it's a little bit more concise now. I'm not having to scroll down several times. It's actually refined that for me just by putting in that request. So that's where we can go back and refine the responses from Copilot again and again. Okay, so let's look at another example. So in this one, we're going to create a prompting adoption plan. So we want to teach people internally about how to write prompts. So this is something essentially that HR or training team might use. So we're going to go and put in the prompt straight away. I'm just going to paste it. Actually, before I do that, because we're kind of switching context here, like I said, I'm going to come over here and click on New Chat. And I'm going to come in here and paste that prompt. And I'm going to send it in, and then I'm going to explain it to you what Copilot's thinking. So here it says the goal. I want to help employees develop good prompting habits when using Microsoft Copilot. The context, our organisation is introducing Copilot and many employees are new to AI. We want users to move beyond simple questions and learn how to write effective prompts using goal, context, source and expectation. The source, only use Microsoft Copilot's best practices, prompt engineering guidance and adoption resources. Do not use organizational data. The reason I've put that in there is because I'm using WorkIQ, which I could have just toggled off to not use organizational data. For anyone that didn't attend our last webinar, organizational data is SharePoint files, OneDrive files, emails, chats, anything that I have access to is what Copilot can essentially search for in this prompt. If I hadn't said, do not use organizational data, I could have just toggled this off and ran the prompt without the WorkIQ on, and it would have just only used the web. In this case, because I just wanted to show you that you can do that, I've left that as is. And I've said the expectation, create a 4-week user adoption plan. Now you can see here that it's gone ahead and it's created the 4-week adoption plan. Here's my week 1, and we'll move on to week 2, week 3, and then week 4. And right down the bottom, with everything, you can see it's used these sources like before. And then right down below, we can see we've got all the sources that Copilot's used to create this response, and then some more suggested prompts as well. So super helpful. And much easier for Copilot to understand what we wanted because we put that original prompt in there as well. Okay, so in the next example, I'm just going to start a new chat again over on the left-hand side. I want to show you how we can put a prompt in, but this time we're going to actually attach a source. So in both of the previous examples, we've actually just told it to use these sources, but in this case, we want to go ahead and reference the source. So basically the prompt says, create an executive briefing from the attached Excel workbook. I need to understand the overall business performance and prepare key talking points for management meeting. This is where I'm asking it to reference the source. So I'm going to go ahead and I could either use the plus sign and go to upload and choose to attach a cloud file, which would then allow me to go and filter down in SharePoint and OneDrive. But because I've recently used this file, I'm actually going to just use the / and I'm going to type in BW, and that's the file that I'm looking for. And when I select that, it references the file. So that's how we're adding a source with a reference. So now Copilot knows when it comes back to me, it's using this source. I hope that makes sense to everyone. I'm going to send it in, and then I'm just going to explain the expectation. So you can see the expectations here. It says provide an executive summary, the top 5 findings, key risks requiring attention, opportunities for improvement, recommended next steps, and questions management should ask before making decisions. I've also told it to use concise business language and clearly identify which worksheet supports each finding. And as we're moving down, here's my executive briefing. really simple. I can see exactly what's happening within this file, the top 5 findings, key risks requiring attention, opportunities for improvement, recommended next steps, and questions management should ask. You can see how easy it is to put in a really good prompt and get this lots of information back. Again, we could have said make this concise. It even says suggestions like summarize key financial trends and so forth. Like I said, these little suggestions when you're learning to use Copilot and prompting can be quite helpful. Sometimes it might not be the one that you want, but it will get your mind thinking about something else that you could essentially do. All right, I'm just going to flick back over to the PowerPoint. So we've gone through that demonstration, and now we're going to talk a little bit more about prompting. Most people think that they have to write the perfect prompt straight away, and you don't really need to do that. Instead, you can flip it round and tell Copilot the result that you want, then ask it what it needs to know. So I call this reverse prompting. So you might say something like, I need a proposal that matches our company style. Ask me everything you need before you write the prompt. And that's actually asking Copilot to help you to write the prompt. Copilot will come back with questions, you answer them, and it builds the prompt for you. Then you run it and refine it. And if it's not quite right, remember we can always ask Copilot to refine, and that's what we call reverse prompting. Let's look over other ways that you can get prompting help as well. So there's things called agents within Copilot, and they have been designed to perform specific jobs. So prompting coach or the prompt coach is one of those agents. Its job is to help you write better prompts. Instead of doing the task, you look at what you've written and it basically suggests ways to improve it so you can get better results from Copilot. It's a way to learn what makes a good prompt and especially good when you're first getting started. So we'll take a look at that in action shortly. And we're going to dive back into our demo. I'll just minimize that again. So here's our Copilot app again. And in this case, I'm going to give you some examples of reverse prompting. I think before I show you, I'll just mention as well, a lot of the time people say to me, Jess, I want to do this, or how do I do this? And a lot of the time, the way that I've gained my knowledge is obviously through using Copilot. So if someone asks me a question, the first thing I do is to go into Copilot. And that might be something like, oh, I asked Copilot to create me a Word template, and then it created it, but it didn't do it in our style. And so then I was trying to get Copilot to fix it to our style, and it didn't work. And I don't know why it didn't work. And I'll say, okay, great, let's ask Copilot. So we'll say, I want you to create a template in our style. What's the best way to do this? And then Copilot will come back. I know what it will say. It will say open the template first and then write to the template. So these are the kind of things that you can kind of use Copilot for to help you to get to learn better, to help you get to prompt better and stuff like that. So in this example of reverse prompting, I'm just going to paste it in. I'm just going to start a new chat and I'll put it in there for you. And I'll send it in and I'll read it out for you. So I want you to get to know me by asking questions one at a time about how I work, communicate, learn, and use technology. After each question, tell me whether the information should be saved as a memory or added to my Copilot custom instructions and explain why. At the end, provide a list of recommended memories and custom instructions, including the exact wording I should use. If you're not sure what memory and custom instructions are, it actually tells us straight away here. But it is outlined in our last session as well. So memory is something that you can get Copilot to learn through prompting. So you can tell it to learn memories or it will learn it automatically as well. And it's used basically like in a personal context and it stays true over time. But Copilot will go and check your memories before it gives you a response. And if it can find a memory that's valid to the response, it'll apply it. Then we have custom instructions, which is a preference for how you want Copilot to respond. And that will always reference the custom instructions. So every time you ask Copilot to do something, it will always reference it and come back. So that might be like never use bold text, always use Australian English, stuff like that would be custom instructions. So you can see here that Copilot's asking me a question. When you're under pressure and you need to get work done quickly, what do you want Copilot to do first? So it's asking me and it's giving me some examples and when I come come back and answer these questions, it should tell me whether it's a memory or a custom instruction. So when I'm under pressure, you need to get work done quickly. What do you want Copilot to do first? I'm going to ask it to give short answer first. Because it is always, we've said, a long response from Copilot. So I would like it to do short answers first because that's how I like to get my responses. So then it says, great, add to custom instructions. Why? This is a response style preference rather than the fact about you. It tells Copilot how to structure answers across different conversations. Here's the custom instruction, the wording. I can just copy and paste that straight into my settings, and then it moves on to question 2. So this is a way to do reverse prompting. So we're getting Copilot here to help us to do things or to prompt us to do things as well. I hope everyone can see a value in that. I'm just going to start a new chat and put in another example of a reverse prompt here. So in this case, my goal is to reduce the time to take to onboard a new employee. What information would you need from me before you create an effective prompt to help solve this problem? So we go ahead and send that in. So that's a great goal. Thank you, Copilot. And here you can see current onboarding process, and it's asking me questions, and I'll go ahead and respond to each of those questions here. So we could just say 1 and then a response, 2 and then a response, 3 and then a response. And then once it's finished that, Copilot will come back and help us to create that prompt for onboarding a new employee. Another example of good reverse prompting there. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you was the prompting coach. So we were talking about agents. Over on the left-hand side, we have our agents section here. When we hover over that little arrow, you'll see that we can search for any agents we already have assigned to us, or under more agents here, when you click on that, it opens a box where you can go and search for an agent here. So if I typed in prompt as an example, there's the prompt coach. If I select it, it goes ahead and opens up the prompt coach. And for you guys, you'd have a button here that said add. Now, if you can't search for prompt coach or you don't have a button that says add, it's just purely because you just need to ask your administrator to allow that agent for you. So once it's allowed, you'll be able to add it. They can even make it so that you don't even need to add it, and it automatically gets pinned on the left-hand side here. Once it's added, you'll be able to access it over in the pin section. And if you click on prompt coach, this is the prompting agent. You can see underneath it has some suggested prompts like prompt generation, analyze prompt, or even prompt compliance. And I'll just put in a prompt example that we can use with this. So I'm just going to come in here and paste in something that says, analyze this prompt and show me how to improve it. Write me an email about a new project. And if I send that prompt in, guess what's going to happen? Copilot's going to use the prompt coach to analyze the prompt. You can see here it's telling me what works, okay, just the task, and what we're missing, which we can see is goal, context, audience, key information, tone, and output expectations. And look, it's even given me improved prompt here. So this is where you can really get ideas on how you can ask Copilot to give you the right information. If this prompt is too lengthy, you can come back here and you can say, I like my prompts to be shorter than that. I don't need that much detail. And you can see the changes made and why, and the prompt writing tips further below. So the prompt coach can be very helpful for you when you're learning how to use the prompting. All right, I'm just going to switch back to the PowerPoint now and just finish up. So sometimes people come back to me during training sessions and they say, oh, Jess, I asked Copilot a question and it came back and it didn't give me what I expected. Now, Copilot isn't wrong. The prompt is just missing something. If the answer is too generic, tell it exactly where to look and what you want back. If it uses the wrong information, you can name the source. You can be specific. If you say something like check my emails, you might say check my inbox or check my sent emails. If the length is off, you can set the length, the format. If it lacks detail, you can ask for the specific points you need. And if it's still not right, you can ask Copilot what information would have helped it or why it provided the information back that it did. And it most of the time tells you what the problem was. So the thing to remember is if the response is poor, add more context, not more words. Okay, so in the workbook that you'll receive as well, you also have Microsoft resources, which gives you further training across the Microsoft products. Obviously, we all offer training as well, which I'll hand over to Stephen now to wrap up the session. Thank you everyone so much for your time.
Thanks, Jess. Excellent as always. Lots of valuable and practical tips there. So thanks. That was great. As I mentioned in the introduction, we do have some training packages available from group workshops all the way down to one-on-one sessions with Jess and her team. We also, from that point of view, we can BusinessWorks can assist with you guys as far as getting some Copilot licenses and whatnot. We'll send out an email over the coming days that will sort of outline how you can order those and review those both those options. Also in the email, we're going to have this recording will be included in that, so you can go back over and have a look at what you saw today and get some more of those sort of valuable tips that Jess was talking about there. Our next webinar session is on the 17th of September. So we look forward to hopefully everybody can join us for our third of the series. And thank you very much, everybody, for joining. We appreciate you giving us your time to take you through this, and hope everybody has a very good day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.